You're up.
Good morning, everybody. It's 9 a.m. on Thursday, January 16, 2025. And thank you all for joining us at this Board of Directors meeting for the Animal Service Center, the Mesilla Valley meeting we have this morning. I'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would rise if you can, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, then we'll move on to a roll call. All right, we'll start with ex officio member Ben Como.
Here.
Board member Williams.
Present.
Board member Gates.
Here.
Ex officio member Ward.
Present.
Board member Campbell.
Here.
Board member Peck.
Good morning, here.
Vice Chair Graham.
Good morning, present.
All right. Councilor Corn.
Here.
And Commissioner Hernandez.
Happy New Year here.
Happy New Year. And Chairman Sanchez, I am here. So, all right. So we'll move on to item number 3, which is the acceptance of the agenda. If I can get a motion in a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Second, Corin.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. So with that, I'll take a...
Sorry.
Oh, please.
Can I propose that
Oh,
we
yes.
move, and I haven't brought my agenda, the action item about electing new officers to the top of the action items, right?
Yes, sorry. So yes, agenda item 8.3. That is for the approval, or sorry, the selection of a new board chair and vice chair, as well as committee assignments. If there's no concern with that, I'd like to move it up after our closed meeting statement. Part of the reason is I'd love to hand over the reins to a new chairperson. I have a personal commitment that I have to be at 10 a.m. And so if there's no objections to that from the board?
I move that we do that.
Okay, sorry. So we'll take that motion. So we'll move item 8.3 to after item 4. And Mr. Board Member Williams, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So then, if I can, I'll take a roll call of the with the approval of the agenda with the changes noted. Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Board Member Gates.
Yes.
All right. Board Member Campbell.
Yes.
Board Member Peck.
Yes.
Vice Chair Graham.
Yes.
Councilor Corn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Yes.
And then I vote yes. So our agenda is approved. Thank you all. All right, agenda item number 4, which is our closed meeting statement. The Board of Directors of the ASCMV met in closed session on December 13th, 2024, here at City Hall at 9 a.m. to discuss limited personnel matters related to the identification of an interim director for the ASCMV. The following board members were present at that time. It was Board Member Gates, Board Member Peck, Board Member Campbell, Councilor Corrin, Commissioner Hernandez, ex officio member Ward, ex officio member Ben Como, and myself, Commissioner Manuel Sanchez. We were joined by Ms. Liz Seeley at 9:40 a.m., and the session was concluded at 9:53 a.m. So, I don't know if there's any questions on that statement. If not, thank you. All right. Then we'll move on, jumping back to agenda item 8.3. It's a selection of the ASCMV board chair and vice chair, and then committee assignments. So what I'll do is I'll start with the board chair. I'll ask for nominations. And then once the nominations are closed, we'll do a roll call to select. So, okay.
I nominate Becky Graham.
Okay, thank you. We have a nomination for Councilor Graham. Any other nominations? All right, hearing none. I will do a roll call then for Councilor Graham as chairperson. Board Member Williams?
Yes.
Board Member Gates?
Yes.
Board Member Campbell,
Yes.
Board Member Peck,
Yes.
Vice Chair Graham,
Yes.
Councilor Corrin,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez.
Yes.
And I vote yes, and so, Councilor Graham? Yes. Yeah. Would you love to give a speech?
Thank you so much.
So I'd like to, I'll ask if you want, I can do you want to take over now, or do you want to take over after we complete this section, or when would you like to?
I'll let you finish this out. It can be your swan song.
Okay, thank you. All right, so then we'll move to nominations for Board Vice Chair, which would be from the county. And so I will nominate Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez.
Second.
It's one of the two, or I don't know.
We can make the swan song a year long, Manny, if you want to be vice chair.
All right,
But that's fine, yes. I'll
Okay.
accept.
thank you. All right. Then I'll do a roll call for Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez as Vice Chair. Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Board Member Gates,
Yes.
Board Member Campbell,
Yes.
Board Member Peck,
Yes.
Chair Graham,
Yes.
Councilor Corrin,
Yes.
Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez,
Yes.
and then Commissioner Sanchez. I vote yes, so congratulations.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much. Should I start?
We'll need committee assignments.
Oh, is that, sorry.
Yeah, that was the last thing on this agenda
Got it.
item. So I know we have, board members, we have 3 committee assignments. The only one that I know, so the executive committee is generally set with the chair, vice chair, and outgoing chair. The finance committee and facilities committee are available, and I don't know who would be, I know that's normally chaired by ex officio member Ben Como, that's chaired by the city of Las Cruces. But I don't know, board members, if you have any requests or on which committee you would like to be on. I don't know, you can either go down the list or don't go down the dais, or I guess we can do that if that works. Board Member Williams?
I'd like to remain on facilities, if I may.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd suggest that unless there are objections, we just leave the committees the way that they are.
Okay. Okay, then are there any objections?
Just, sorry, again, I think last year we said exactly what you're proposing, Mr. Williams, and then we weren't clear. But some of that means, so for instance, I don't know if functionally, as an executive committee member, I was on the finance committee as a function of being, so then that would suggest someone else should be on that committee or not. So that's, I guess, some of that I'm not sure of. Or I'm happy to just stay on, I'm happy with if they stay exactly as they are, except for the executive committee, but I just want clarity because I wasn't sure if, I don't think we have explicit sort of roles or call-outs on the committees, but that is something that we should figure out when we redo our bylaws, perhaps,
Okay.
if they're like proportional. But I just want to get clarity. It just means exactly the same people, not the same titles on the board.
Yeah,
Okay. Just,
I think that's
thank you.
fair.
I understand.
okay. So I guess for the record, I don't know which board members have been on, and so if you don't mind me telling, what I'll do is I'll read them off, and then we'll approve, we'll just have it for the record, if that's okay. Board Member Williams, I don't know which committee you were on?
I'm on facilities.
Okay. Board Member Gates?
I am on facilities.
Okay. And then Board Member Campbell is on facilities. Board Member Peck? Finance. Okay. And then Chair Graham, you were,
Well, I'll be shifting to executive, I
that's true.
guess. I think
Okay.
that's the only
okay.
change.
I was on I'm on finance, and
Okay.
I am not on the executive committee anymore.
Okay. And Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez, were you previously on finance, or?
Finance and now exec.
Okay. Okay, so what I have here now is, let's see, Board Member Campbell, Williams, and Gates are on the Facilities Committee. For Finance Committee, we have Board Member Peck, Councilor Corn, and Vice Chair Sheldon Hernandez. And then for the Executive Committee, it'll be Chair Graham, Vice Chair Sheldon Hernandez, and Commissioner Sanchez, myself as the outgoing chair. Okay. All right, if I can get a motion and a second to approve those assignments.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion by Board Member Williams,
Second?
second by Vice Chair Sheldon Hernandez. All right, we'll take a roll call. Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Board Member Gates,
Yes.
Board Member Campbell,
Yes.
Board Member Peck,
Yes.
Chair Graham,
Yes.
Councilor Court,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sheldon Hernandez,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sanchez. I vote yes. And so we have those. Thank you so much. All right. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item 5.1, approval of the minutes from the regular ASCMV Board of Directors meeting held on October 24th, 2024. I'm hoping folks have had a chance to look through there, but I will give you a really quick scan if not, and please let me know if you note any items that would need to be edited.
Move approval.
Second?
I have an edit on, not the actual minutes, but on the forms that we're supposed to fill in. I'm not included, and trust me, I every day wonder if I've been fired from this job, but I don't think I have been just yet. So I say that because it's on the 2 minutes that we have. I'm not included, but I am mentioned in the minutes, so that does make me think I was present and at the board and still here, as far as I can tell. So I don't think that's in the actual document. It's sort of on the formal documents that we file. So I'll be alone with my existential crisis now. Thanks.
I can attest to the lack of her name.
Schrodinger's board member here. Is she here? Is she not? We don't know.
Madam Chair, I amend my motion to approve to include everybody's name on the minutes. Thank you.
I will also amend my motion.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll have roll call to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of October 24th, 2024 with the inclusive edits. Board Member Williams?
Yes.
Board Member Gates?
Yes.
Board Member Campbell?
Yes.
Board Member Peck?
Yes. Oh, wait, I abstain. I wasn't here.
Okay. Councilor Corrin?
Yes, I was here.
Vice Chair Shaljo Hernandez?
Yes.
And I, Chair Graham, vote yes. Motion passes.
I also vote yes.
Oh, God. Outgoing Chair Manuel Sanchez?
Yes. Sorry, I know I'm on an island over here.
And I'm so sorry.
See,
Okay.
I see, Councilor Corin. I mean,
Though
I'm here and I'm
I
not here.
know this is, okay, so we're extra approved. Thank you so much. Next up, 5.2, approval of the meeting, minutes from the special ASCMV Board of Directors meeting held on December 13th, 2024. Same, included in packets. Anyone?
I move we approve.
And
Second.
She was there.
thank you so much. So we had a motion by Board Member Campbell, second by Board Member Peck, and I'll call roll. Board Member Williams?
Abstain. I was not here.
Okay. Board Member Gates?
Yes.
Board Member Campbell?
Yes.
Board Member Peck?
Yes.
Councilor Corrin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Shaljo Hernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Yes.
And I, Chair Graham, vote yes. Motion passes. And then moving on to item 6.1, City and County ACO reports. So whoever would like to be first, thank you.
There it goes. Board Chair members, my name is Brian Halsey. I'm the caseworker for Donana County Animal Control, here to present the October through December 2024 monthly report. For our reported stray animals, we had 834 reported stray animals. We had 411 stray animals picked up. Out of those were 120 stray cats and 291 stray dogs. We had 46 sick or injured animals. We had 25 cats and 21 dogs. And we had 40 owner surrender animals, and they were all dogs. This is our reported stray animal call comparison for the 4 years. And this is our 4-year field return to owner comparison. For October, we had 17. For November, we had 18, and December, we had 15. And our grand total for the year was 254 field return to owners. We had, for our additional pickups, we had 0 owner surrendered cats. We had 40 owner surrendered dogs, 46 sick or injured animals. We had 13 welfare holds. For those that are new, welfare holds are if, let's say, a sheriff's unit or border patrol, anybody is arrested or anything like that, and they have animals with them, they call us out and we go pick them up to do a welfare hold for them. For neglect, abuse, cruelty cases, we had 3 cruelty cases throughout that time. We had 19 shelter quarantines. We had 12 home quarantines. Our court-hold quarantines cases were just the 3 cruelties that we had. As of the 13th of January, we have 17 live evidence animals being held in our facility. Some of those are through cases that are currently being in the process of going through. And then a big chunk of those were actually from our cruelty case. We had a mom and litter that was involved in a cruelty case that we are currently trying to go through. That's also in litigation. We had 1 rabies submission that was negative. We had 40 diverted intakes. Diverted intakes are animals that we ended up not having to take to the shelter. For education for those 3 months, we had 876 opportunities for education, and our total calls for those 3 months was 1,929. These are what we picked up through each district. So District 1, we had 0 cats and 15 dogs picked up. In District 2, we had 26 cats and 34 dogs. In District 3, we had 10 cats and 65 dogs. In District 4, we had 39 cats and 53 dogs. In District 5, we had 24 cats and 51 dogs. And District 6, 2 cats and 13 dogs. And then District 7 is 19 cats and 60 dogs. This is our 4-year stray cat picked up by district comparison. The biggest one for us was for December in District 4. We had a lot more cats than we were having in November. And then our stray dogs picked up. And then our reasons for owner surrenders. We had 3 that were involved in vicious and or dangerous. We had 3 for livestock attacks, 3 for aggressive behavior. We had 4 that the owners weren't able to keep on the property and they didn't want to get citations, so they just, owners surrendered the dogs. We had 3 that they weren't able to take care of or were able to afford. We had 2 that were, 1 was sick and then 1 was old, and they wanted a euthanasia request on it. We had 1 for euthanasia. We had 10, which I believe was a litter that was exposed to parvo. We had 9 that all came from the same house. They were getting evicted and they had nowhere to take the dogs. And then we had 2 for behavior issues. And this is just a slide we added at the end for the end of 2024. Our total stray calls was 3,705. Our stray cats picked up was 548. Our stray dogs picked up was 1,500. Our field return to owners was 254, and our total calls of service was 8,639. And for that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Board members, any questions? All right, thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Gino Jimenez. I'm the Animal Control Supervisor for the city. I will present to you our last quarter of 2024 numbers. As requested, I kept this as a monthly report. However, my December report will give the year to date for 2024. So for the month of October, we responded to 403 calls for strays. 223 of those were GOA, meaning that the officer did not have contact with that dog or that cat. 180 were apprehended. 142 were impounded at the animal shelter. 72 of those were dogs, and 70 were cats. We were successful in field RTOing 38 dogs back to their owners out in the field. However, we were unsuccessful in field RTOing 21 of those. Those were dogs or animals that had some sort of identification. However, for some reason, they were not able to be returned to the owner at that time, giving us a total of 59 identifiable animals for that month. Here is our chart for the 3-year stray animal calls. Again, 403, giving us a total for that month, a running total, 4,296 calls for service. This is also one of our peak performance issues, where we are asking, or we are attempting to meet the goal of 65% of all stray animals apprehended. We were able to achieve 59%. Here is our 3-year field RTO comparison. Again, we were able to field RTO 38, bringing us to a total for that month to 403. Our peak performance goal is to field RTO 25% of all secure animals. However, that month we were only able to do 18%. Here are the other 2 peak performance reports. Number 3 is a 10% reduction in stray animal bites. We had a 5.5% decrease, that's why it's marked in red, because we still didn't meet that goal. We had 108 reported stray bites for 2024 and 114 for the year 2023. And goal number 4 is a 10% reduction in owner-victim bites. We had a 12% increase in that one, 101 for the year, running total for the year, and 89 for the previous 2023. Here is our stray community cat program chart. We responded to 55 cats and traps. However, we were able to release 5. If you look at the totals, that's 557 stray cat calls for the year, and 72 were released. Here is a November report. Again, 403, which is coincidental. We were able to, 228 of them were GOA. We were able to apprehend 175. 173 were taken to the shelter. 86 were dogs. 49 were cats. We were able to successfully field RTO 40 animals, and we were unsuccessful in field RTO 12, bringing us to a total of 52 identifiable animals. Here is the stray chart for November. Again, 403 calls for service for strays, bringing us to a total of 4,699 for the year. Again, peak performance report, a 65% goal, and we were able to achieve 57% for that month. Here is our 3-year field RTO comparison, 40 for the month of November, bringing us to a total at that time to 443 animals that were successfully returned to their owners. Our goal was 25%. We were able to achieve 18%. The other two peak performance measures, 10% reduction in stray animal bites, again, another 5% decrease. 121 of those reported stray bites compared to 124 for the year 2023. And a 10% reduction in owner-victim bites. We had a 14% increase in that one. 108 owner-victim bites for this year at November, and 93 for 2023. Community cat program chart. We responded to 41 cats and traps. However, we were able to release 11 of those, 11 that were already had all the requirements as a community cat to be able to be released back to where it was initially impounded. Bring us to a total of 598 calls for service and 83 cats were released. And finally, here is December, which will also give us our year-to-date or a total for 2024. We responded to 363 calls for service, for stray calls in December. 191 of them were GOA. We were able to apprehend 169 of those animals. 120 went to the Animal Services Center. 79 were dogs and 41 were cats. We were successful in field RTOing 49 animals back to their owners in the field. And again, those are animals that never crossed the threshold of the Animal Service Center. We were unsuccessful in 21, bringing us to a total of 70 identifiable animals for that month. Here is our grand total for December and for the year to date. So for December, we responded to 363 calls for strays, bringing us to a grand total for the year, 5,062 calls. Again, our peak performance goal is 65%. For that month, we were able to achieve 56.5%. Our 3-year field RTO comparison, again, 49 animals were returned to their owners, bringing us to a grand total for the year of 492 animals. Again, I've got to say this, these are animals that never cross the threshold of the Animal Service Center. Our goal is 25% of those animals to be returned to their owners. We were successful in 19% of that. Here, the number 3 and number 4 peak performance goals, 10% reduction in stray animal bites. We had a 1.5% increase. For the year 2024, we responded to 134 stray animal bites. In the year 2023, it was 132, hence a 1.5% increase. And then number 4, a 10% reduction in owner-victim bites. However, we went the other way and had a 10.5% increase in owner-victim bites, a total of 114 owner-victim bites for 2024 and 102 for 2023.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Board Member Williams.
Gino, I really appreciate that you set these goals for biting dogs, but there's no way to control that. I mean, I like that you would like for those numbers to go down, but I just don't see a way for you to do that, because a dog is either going to bite or it's not going to bite. It's not like your educational efforts where you can control how many hours you're going out into the community. It's not like your RTOs where you're really ramping up your efforts at both at the city and county levels to get RTO numbers up. And so I guess I'm wondering, Madam Chair and Gino, why are we measuring this when it's completely out of your control?
Madam Chair, board member, yeah, and I agree completely with you, especially with the owner-victim bites. There is absolutely no way that animal control can have any type of influence on that. If especially if you have dogs that are resource protecting. Food, water, toys, bedding, whatever, in their own house, animal control isn't going to be able to do a thing about those. However, we have to stress that our educational outreach for the stray animal bites, not approaching, being able to identify when an animal doesn't want to be touched and leave it alone, better yet call us, we can take care of that. And taking your input into consideration, we are talking about revamping our goals. So this is something that came about 9 years ago. We sat down with some of the officers and some of the other department heads, and these are the 5 or 4 goals that we came up with at that time. We do understand that these may be dated, so therefore we're coming up with new goals that are more attainable for us.
Thank you very much, Gino. That's a great explanation, and I look forward to seeing what the new goal structure is, because this one just doesn't make any sense to me.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I also have a comment real quick.
Please, Board Member Gates.
So it's actually funny because our minds must have been in the same place, because I was like, these goals are great and I appreciate that you have goals. I think that's really important, but I do disagree. I agree that there is some level of outreach that can happen in order for you to meet those goals, and I do think that there is a way to resolve that, and that is with education and outreach, not just for stray animals. I think educating the community, period, is what's needed in order to reach those goals. So I actually, when you were finished, I was like, in my brain, I'm like ready to go, like, okay, well, how are you going to like let the community know? Because that's the only way. Otherwise, you're just relying on like, maybe like, chance will happen and I can meet my goals. So I don't think the goals in themselves are bad. I just think the way you need to improve those percentages has to change, because you have to be in control of the improvement. You can't just expect, like I said, just one day something to click in somebody's head, like, oh, I should maybe train my dog, or I should maybe fix my fence, things like that. So I don't think there's a lot wrong with the goals. I think we should be tracking those in a lot of ways, but we should have a better idea of how those goals are going to change. And even if that's a relationship with the center, making sure that we can start building more robust outreach programs, having, this connection with animal control is really important, so that we can work together in the services we offer the community that isn't just services in the context of buying things from the shelter, but actually learning things from the shelter. So just wanted to comment on that. And like I said, I love seeing percentages and goals and numbers, obviously. So I do appreciate that those exist, and it is awesome to hear too that you're going to review them, because you think maybe there's some changes that need to be made. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Councilor Corrin.
I just wanted to add to this, again, thank you, Gino, and thank you all for your inputs. Also, just as a functional matter, peak performance measures are a requirement of all city departments. And so just so you know, this is part of a bigger, like, kind of city measuring thing. And I think, I don't want to say that Gino is not an agent in that, but the city sort of imposed the idea that we would have these types of goals onto all the departments, and that's partly why I think they exist as they do, and perhaps are less mutable. Like, this is part of a bigger system. I think that, just to give some context to where these come from and why they've existed and why they do exist and why it's part of the report. It's part of a bigger city movement related to analyzing performance and understanding what they're doing, and that even adds to sort of all that you all have contributed. But just so you know, that's partly why I don't want Gino to get too hard of a time, because like that, this is a city related measuring process. So
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think one of the things to keep in mind, and as we talk through the peak performance, and I think this is, it's still relatively new while the city's been doing this, rolling it out, and I think as they continue to gather data, I'd be kind of curious if you, unless the metric changes in the future, I'd be curious to see if we'll reach kind of a saturation point, or, because I think as we collect data, as people start to recognize that, or as we get better about getting that information, you tend to have a rise in those data points, because of the fact that you are starting to have a better collection system. And so I'd be curious as we move forward whether that might actually, you might actually start to see a decrease with that, because after everything kind of normalizes, your data normalizes, or your data collection normalizes, now you have a good data set, and now, maybe you will start to see some of that decrease. I don't know. I think it's like all external, I think, like I said, this is all kind of a relatively new, I won't say relatively new, this is from the data from the past couple of years, but I think as you start looking at it, I wondered if that might, in 2025, would you see that as you move forward? Because, you're not just picking up maybe things you wouldn't have picked up, or data points you wouldn't have picked up in the past. So, or I think as we've talked about, are these the right metrics that to be measuring for animal control? And I think, as the others have noted, because of the fact that we don't have direct impact on these, but you do have. So it'd be kind of curious to see how the data continues on into the next year.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, Commissioner Sanchez, I believe that, as we talk about this in our staff meetings, I'm hoping that in the fiscal year 26, we'll have some different measures and something that are more obtainable for us. Hopefully. We're still talking about it.
Any other comments then? What I would suggest to my fellow board members, and it sounds like we're thinking on an FY timeline rather than a calendar year timeline. So perhaps not for the April meeting, but for the, what would it be?
June.
Although July is,
June, July.
I mean, it's technically the start of the next fiscal year. Perhaps we can add a discussion item to the agenda. I'll look to board members. Would you want to hear that April, July, if at all? To Board Member Williams?
Madam Chair, I would suggest that we have that discussion in April to guide the ACOs, give them a little bit of guidance from the board in terms of what kinds of goals we'd like to see, so that when they get to the fiscal year, they have that guidance ahead of time.
Yeah, I would agree. Then I would suggest, again, at the smiles, nods, and thumbs up of my fellow board members, that for April we can have a discussion item, Gino, where you can speak to both your perspective from the peak performance side of things and where you feel more relevant or meaningful or actually indicative statistics might be.
Madam Chair, absolutely.
Great.
I think any new goals that we can discuss, and then of course, with the approval of the chief all the way up the chain of command, would be absolutely welcome.
Okay, great.
Chair
And-
Graham. Over here.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, if I may. Just wanted to let you know, you're absolutely right with respect to the context of the peak performance goals being cascading down really from the city strategic plan through to the department strategic plans. The current city plan is valid from 2021 through 2026. I believe that there will be an initiative to update the city plan later in the spring, or to start that process. Once that is complete, then the department plans will be updated, and that will, of course, include some new measures and goals for each of the lines of businesses and programs that we have in the various departments. So that should be coming later in this calendar year. We don't really follow the fiscal year with respect to the setting of those goals, but they're really through the establishment of the department's strategic plans. So just wanted to add that context.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, Board Member Williams? Oh, I'm sorry, I guess you were just waving. Okay, thanks. Gino, I'm sorry, we stalled you out on slide 15 here, so continue.
A very good discussion. Thank you for that. I believe we hit this one. If not, I'll go over it again. So for the month of December, we responded to 39 calls for cats and traps. 8 of those were community cats that were already met the requirements. So that gave us a total of 637 cat and trap calls, and we were able to release 91 back where they were initially impounded. So here, for the last quarter, these are our reasons we were unable to field RTO. 31 of those were for dogs that had no contact by phone or at the residence. 13 were for dogs that the microchip was not updated or registered. 3 were for cats where the chip was not updated or registered. 2 for cats, the owner was evicted and they left no forwarding phone number. 1 was for a cat with no contact by phone or at the residence. 1 cat, the owner passed away, and again, there was no forwarding address or no secondary emergency information. And 1 dog where the owner refused to pick up the dog out in the field and actually hung up on the officer. Here are our reasons for owner releasing animals. 23, the owner could no longer care for. 7, the dogs for aggression. 7 dogs for behavioral issues. 5 dogs unable to keep in the yard. 5 dogs the owner, landlord or property manager does not allow. 4 dogs for health issues, and 2 were for euthanasia request. 2 dogs, the owner admitted to the dogs being dangerous. 2 dogs not compatible with the other pets. 1 dog for lifestyle change. 1 dog killed another dog, and finally 1 cat the landlord or property manager did not allow on their property. So here are calls for service for October. We responded to a total of 1,137 calls. November, 1,011. And December, 936, bringing us to a grand total for the year, 13,325 calls. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Board members, any follow-up questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, 6.2, the Shelter Statistics and Activities Annual Report. I'll invite up Interim Director Liz Seeley. This is your first official presentation
Yes.
in front of the board. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
We're delighted to have you.
So Liz Seeley, ASCMV Interim Director. I just want to make note on the agenda that I'll be presenting the annual report, but our quarterly report is going to be in your packets, and it's also going to be available on our website for public view.
Sounds great, thank you.
So let's get into it. The intake stats, so this is going to be how animals came into our shelter last year. This first slide is going to be total animals brought in from the city, so any animals within city limits. The highest one is going to be strays from animal control, so that's going to be city animal control. In the blue is the dogs, 1,119, and in the green is the cats. The second highest is going to be owner surrenders, so 742 dogs, 207 cats. And this next slide is going to be the same stats, but for county. So that includes Anthony, Hatch, Mesilla, Sunland Park, White Sands Missile Range. Again, the highest is going to be strays from animal control, county animal control. Dogs, 1,883, and cats, 678. And then the second highest for dogs is going to be the owner surrenders. So this is taking those first 2 slides and combining them. So this gives us a total combined intake of 9,139 for 2024. The highest, again, strays from animal control, both city and county, and then owner surrenders is second. This kind of averages out to about 25 animals per day. Sometimes we get more, sometimes we get less, sometimes we can get up to 40. So yeah. So intake comparison. So this is just our intake numbers throughout the years, going all the way back to 2009. We are down by 11% from last year. So that's a good sign. We're happy to see that we didn't continue trending upwards, and we hope to see that number continue to go down next year. Monthly intake, so this is just a picture of our intakes throughout the year for each month. We usually stay pretty steady about 6 months out of the year, and then it's typical to kind of see the summer months increase. So our peak month last year was May. Species, so these are the types of animals that came in. The majority, 67% were dogs, 31.8% were cats, and then we always have a few others that come in. We had a lot of rabbits. Pocket pets are going to be hamsters, guinea pigs, things like that. And avian, we had quite a few chickens, roosters, and ducks. And if I recall, we had over 25 of them come in from the same home at the same time just a couple months ago. They all found homes pretty quickly. They were all adopted out or sent to rescue. This is a comparison just of all the intake methods combined. So 4,693 were strays brought in from animal control. The next highest one was strays brought in by the public. And then owner surrenders was 1,643. That's a huge number. It can be frustrating to some of our staff, but there is a lot of different reasons people own or surrender their animals. We're always here to help. As animal control pointed out, you know, sometimes the animals are aggressive or they're just not able to keep those animals, but we do really want to kind of change the way of thinking in our community to have people think of their pets more as family members and less as objects that they can just dispose of, you know, at the slightest inconvenience. So I think we can work on this number a lot through education. So we hope to see that number go down. Diverted intake comparison. So the diverted intake, as mentioned previously with the ACOs, is when somebody finds an animal, they bring it into our shelter, and we try to give them other options. So, you know, we usually give them a list of local resources, local rescues. Sometimes we ask them to hold on to the animal while they look for the owner. So last year we were able to divert 2,112 animals. And the outcome statistics, so this is how animals left the shelter. So the number one way was going to be euthanasia at 2,609. That's obviously not the number we want to see. All of our efforts are geared towards making this number as low as possible. So that was 1,906 were dogs, 683 were cats, and then 20 were other. Our second highest outcome, though, is something that I'm really proud of. It was transferred out to rescues. So 2,295 animals left to rescues, both local and out of state. So we're super grateful to all of our rescue partners. If we didn't have that resource, then the number that I'd be presenting today for euthanasia would just be so much higher. So we're really grateful to have those partnerships. We also did pretty well in our adoptions. 1,981 animals were adopted back into the community. So these animals are all spayed and neutered now. They're vaccinated. They're microchipped and vetted. And return to owners was 1,102. And we had 879 community cats. This slide is our euthanasia breakdown. So I kind of want to take a minute to talk more about this. I'll focus on the top euthanasia reason, which is the first one, space behavior. So if you kind of remember that I mentioned we got on average 25 animals in per day. So the shelter's really like a revolving door. You know, when we're getting 25 in per day and we don't have 25 animals leaving, then we have to make space. And behavior can encompass a lot of different traits. I'll just use timid as an example. So when we're going through and we have to make room for 25 animals that day, there's, they have a choice between a dog that's really friendly, up at the kennel, his tail's wagging, versus a dog that's hiding under his bed, really terrified. And this is a natural behavior. We understand that shelter's a scary environment. Even the fact that they're inside can really freak some dogs out. So we understand that this is a completely natural behavior. However, we have to go back to remembering, space is the issue at this point. So these are the heartbreaking decisions that we have to make each day. So that decision was made 461 times last year. The next one is just going to be space general. So this is if space is needed and there's no behavior animals, there's no medical, that's just euthanizing for we're out of room. And a lot of people think that with our new shelter, we have tons and tons of room, but we have to go back to think about our capacity for care, how many employees we have. We have to keep that to a number that we think is humane. And the next few reasons for euthanasia, parvo and failure to thrive, those are going to be puppies and kittens. And I want to go down to the 140, the medical ringworm. This is a number that we're really going to try to eliminate or bring down as much as we can this year. We're working, our medical director, Dr. Haddon, is coming up with a plan to kind of keep more ringworm cats. And I say cats because it's mostly cats, but it can be in dogs as well. Ringworm is really, really treatable. The only problem is it's highly contagious, so it takes a long time to treat. So we really have to have a good plan in place to be careful not to spread that to our other population. But we are working on that because we think we can decrease that number or eliminate it altogether to save the ringworm animals that come in. And our euthanasia comparison, this is just a comparison of the number of euthanasias throughout the years. So we were down from last year, which is good to see. And if you look back all the way to 2008, we've made huge strides in euthanasia here in the county. So we're hoping to make that number even lower this year. Animal transfers, these are animals that left to rescue organizations. So 2,295. I would say about half of those left to rescues out of the state, but a lot of rescues here are local and they are helping us out. I'm grateful to each and every one of them, and we're gonna just continue to grow our transport network and hopefully see more animals be saved by these rescues. Adoption comparison. We did pretty good with adoptions. We were a little higher than last year. 68% were dogs. And we're kind of maybe go back and look at what we did in 2019 because that was our highest year for adoptions ever. And I can't recall what we did back then, but we need to kind of look back and see so maybe we can get up to those numbers because we do know it's possible. So our live release rate. So for dogs that are in the blue, it was 67.5%. Cats were 76.2%. This slide is interesting because if you look back to the year prior to 2022, the live release rate for dogs had been higher for cats. And in the last 3 years, the cats have been higher. So we can maybe credit that to the TNR program, but I know a lot of rescues in Colorado have been helping us out with cats in the past few years. So we're happy to see that our cats live release rate has gone up. And so if you combine those, it brings us to a total live release rate of 70.7. So that's up about 5% from last year. So we did really well in 2020. Again, we know it's possible, so we're going to do everything we can to increase that. public services and community outreach. So these are our total visitors to our shelter in 2024. This is up by, I want to say, about 2,000 from last year. And we saw our most visitors in July. It's pretty typical when we see the most animals, we also see the most people. So we encourage everyone who's interested in animal to not only look at our website, but also come by and check out our fairly new adoption center. Surgeries for 2024, we did 4,361. Dr. Haddon and her team did really amazing. I mean, they really average around 350 surgeries per month. We spayed and neutered 1,659 cats under the TNR program, so those were all fixed and released back into the community. 1,148 adoptions, and the 843 shelter fosters. So this would be what we call our in-house surgeries. So we pick an animal that we think has high potential for adoption, and we spay and neuter them with hopes that if somebody does choose them for adoption, they could take them home that same day. So we do that with both animals in shelter and in foster. So we did 843 of those. And the 711 other, that's going to be a lot of our surgeries for rescues. Our vaccination clinics, since 2019, we've had over a dozen vaccination clinics. This was something that our previous director, Clint Thacker, started, and to date, we've done over 15,000 vaccines, either free or at low cost for community pets. And over 3,200 microchips. So we did over 800 alone just last year. So we had 3 microchips in February, June, and October, and we are at the Field of Dreams. So we are getting ready to do our first microchip, our vaccine clinic of the year in February. So February 2nd. That's going to be that's posted on our social media if anyone's interested. Facebook reach. Last year, we hired a digital content specialist. Her name is Carol. She's done wonderful work. You can even see in December of last year, we had our highest amount of Facebook views. So she's got a lot of great ideas. You know, we're getting a lot more active on Facebook, so we think this is going to increase in the coming year. Web views. We also think this is going to increase in the coming year because we used to post our daily stats on our Facebook. However, there's a few issues with that. It wasn't very user-friendly for people who wanted to go back and view a certain date. They'd have to just scroll through a bunch of posts. So we've kind of switched to putting that all on our website now. They are posted monthly, but it's a lot more user-friendly. So we also want to drive people to our website to kind of look at more of the other resources, adoptable animals. So we hope to see the website views increase as well. And then our foster program. So it's going strong. We had 1,831 animals in foster last year, and you can kind of see the breakdown here of each month. Towards the end of the year, we tend to see less animals in foster just because of the holidays. A lot of people are out of town. But I really want to thank our foster coordinator, Vanessa. She single-handedly handles all of these fosters, and she's really trying to grow the program. So thank you to her. And foster parents, these are going to be active foster homes. So we had a total of 795, and this breaks it down per month. So this number is going to be lower than the foster animals because you could have 50 active fosters, but you know, one person has a litter of puppies. This number is just going to be a little bit lower, but we are doing pretty good right now, and we have a lot of foster sleepovers happening. So if you're interested in signing up for one of those, we encourage you to go to our website and fill out the application. There's lots of good information that you get from doing that, and we can set you up as a foster. Our volunteers did increase significantly this past year. This is the volunteer hours per month. So we started a new program called Dogs Playing for Life. It's basically a play group for dogs where it's a controlled setting. It's volunteer run. The majority of it is volunteer run. Dogs just get out and play with each other. And it's not only beneficial to their health, it also helps us learn more about the dogs, and it helps adopters kind of see them at their best. So once we know more about the dogs, we can place them in a more appropriate home. But a lot of our volunteer hours go into that. We do it 3 days out of the week for 3 to 4 hours, and we're really grateful that our volunteers have stepped up to come and run this program for us. This next slide is going to show the breakdown of what volunteers do. So again, the dog handling, the 111 active volunteers, those are, a lot of them going to be involved in dog walking or in our play groups. And if you go down to play group leads, we have 15. So during these play sessions, we have someone that's called a lead, and they're kind of in charge of running the entire group. So these 15 volunteers, we're really grateful for them for stepping up. They're highly experienced. They've got a lot of training. And if you look up to the Spicy Kitten, that's going to be 16 of our volunteers have taken our Spicy Kitten training. So that's kind of where they sit with cats that are what we call spicy, maybe hissy or flighty or something that's under-socialized, and they just spend time with them, and it really helps them open up and helps them be more adoptable. And we will end the report with our mission statement and a picture of Dolly Parton, one of our dogs who was in foster and actually went to rescue recently. So with that, stand for any questions.
Thank you so much. Board members? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Liz, just real quick, going back to the pet sterilization slide on the surgeries. I just had a quick question on the other surgeries. You had reported 711. Does that include the community surgeries as well?
The 711, that will include just any other surgery that's not an adoption. Sorry, let me go back to the slide here.
There you go. Thank you.
So it will include the public surgeries as well, but it also include surgeries for rescues and any other thing that's not a spay and neuter.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Board Member Gates.
Well, first of all, thank you. This was great. I appreciate the presentation and your knowledge that you brought. And I do want to say, like, I know you said you're especially proud of that rescue number, but like, thank you, because that number is from you. So that's awesome. Like, literally, if you hadn't done your job the way you do it, half of the animals in the shelter would have been euthanized. So more than half, actually. So thank you.
Thank you. And I can't take all the credit.
Fair.
My coworker, yeah. I have a coworker, Amy, who's also our rescue coordinator. So, you know, we do everything we can to get these animals out.
You and your team. There we go. The one thing I do want to kind of bring up more so, I guess, to the board is something that I think I would like to think about or see more at these meetings is thinking about our numbers, whether it be animal control numbers or shelter numbers in the context of our population. And the reason that I bring that up is because if you look at most major cities, if you look at their numbers, they're like our daily numbers are their weekly numbers. So I think we need to start looking at it in that way, just so that we're not just looking at a raw number and seeing these raw numbers over and over, but thinking about the fact that, you know, we have a population of what, like 100,000? I can't remember what our population is, but like, you know, and just kind of having a different way of looking at the numbers, because we've been looking at them in that way for so long that it's starting to, I don't want to say I'm becoming numb to it, but it's hard to find the context. So I think even not only looking at our own population, but looking at, you know, similar, either similar or different, you know, like big cities, and being able to really drive home that like our numbers are really bad. And to really understand that by comparison to other municipalities, other cities, we're struggling with the amount of intakes that we're getting. So just kind of like a thing, like I said, you know, I think looking at population is nice because that's something that we can like, it's like a contextual number that we can see the ratio of, you know, per person, we have this many dogs coming in per day. So I think that's just something, you know, that I would personally like to see to give a little more context to numbers overall. I think both in animal control context as well as shelter.
So are you talking like a per capita number or something? Okay.
Yep.
Madam
Yes.
Chair.
Yes, just one moment, just before we lose that thread. I absolutely agree with that, and ideally, I'm maybe looking for a unicorn here. We're looking at a city within a county. So I think city population is about 110,000-ish right now, and county overall.
It's not the same.
Okay, so we're looking about, 220,000. And I know we always, we split out city and county here, but just kind of throwing that in the mix as well. So we have a fairly large geographic county with one hardcore population center. So just throwing that out there. Board Member Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to add to that, I really appreciate Board Member Gates and her suggestion to put this into context. I know that you have a network of other shelters that you work closely alongside. I have to believe that all of them, or a great number of them, are doing similar monthly reports. And it would be interesting to find similar population centers to ours to see what the comparison of those numbers are, if it's easy to get those numbers per population, so that we could see exactly how we're doing compared to other similar sized facilities in similar sized communities. So just to plant that bug in your brain, if we could do that, I think it would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Corrin.
Thank you, and thank you, Liz, for presenting this. Good, I really appreciate your thoughtful presentation, and I echo what a lot of folks are saying, that it is helpful to have that context. I just wanted to add a little bit of time-related comparison. You did this somewhat in your presentation, but while you were chatting, I was just looking at some of the things. And again, this isn't to say that our intakes aren't disproportional. Our uncared for population of animals is really problematic. But I do want to just highlight a few things. Looking at 2024 versus 2014 statistics, the intake, and again, the variables related to intake are myriad, so I don't know that this is necessarily something that we're having an effect on, although I would argue when we have an ongoing strategic conversation about what kinds of things we can influence, understanding how we're influencing intake matters. Intake decreased by 23% from 2014 to 2024. Transfers increased by 19%. Adoptions decreased by 9%. And I think this is another variable that you sort of alluded to, like, we want to influence this. I also think there is a saturation point at which every home in our area has as many animals as they possibly can. So I think that also should be part of our consideration and understanding. The euthanasia rate, and to me, this is something really important, and I think, Liz, you've been there for a large portion of this time. I think that it's been a concerted effort of the ASCMV. The euthanasia rate at the shelter decreased by 42% in the last 10 years. And to me, that is the thing that we have been asking for. That is fundamentally what we want to not be happening. And so I think for us, it's really compelling to think about the strategic, and then surgeries have stayed about the same. So again, I think when we have our conversations going forward as far as strategic dials that we can affect, the shelter has a very concrete, narrow view of the things that they can do within the community. Animal control has that. Where are we placing our influence? Where are we placing our investments? I think it's really critical that we keep in mind that the shelter has done an extraordinary job of reducing the euthanasia rate over the last 10 years in ways that, in the maximizing the ways that they can do that, that you can do that. So I think I just wanted to take a minute to sort of recognize those things and understanding that we have a collective conversation to have to understand where can we most influence these numbers and what does it mean in terms of our investment and how we encourage the shelter to move forward, because you all have met the challenge in that context of the euthanasia rate, despite variables like intake that you can't really, that it's really hard for the shelter to influence directly. So anyway, I just wanted to add that context and sort of, I think it's sort of incumbent on us to have a ongoing strategic conversation about the data, how we invest in services in the community and at the Animal Services Center, and also just give you a lot of appreciation for the work that you've done in this way to dramatically change that, some of those dynamics as much as you possibly can. So thank you, Liz, for presenting, and also everyone for giving your inputs. So that's all. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Liz. Nice presentation. We were talking earlier about peak performance goals. Do you have internal peak performance goals? And I recognize the fact you have the same problem as ACO. Much of this is out of your control. But is there something you're striving for, and maybe have some particular action items in mind for reducing some of these numbers?
We have talked about, prior to Clinton leaving, putting in place a strategic plan. This is something that we hope our new director can put in place pretty quickly, because that includes a lot of goals for our shelter, because right now we don't have anything really internally other than, just saving as many animals as possible, but we really need to outline that and put it more in a strategic plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Well, I too want to thank you, not just for the great presentation, but for all the work that you do. When situations are this heartbreaking, the tough side of it, I know people just want someone to blame, and that is a valid and an understandable concern or reaction. I know that you shoulder a lot of that blame, and I just want to acknowledge the amazing work that you're doing, and to thank you personally for what you're doing and what you will continue to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Next up is our committee reports, starting with Finance. CEO Bencomo.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. So just for context, the Finance Committee meets the third Thursday of every month. That typically gives us time to close out the books, send the financials over to staff so that we can start analyzing and preparing reports for the committee. So with that, this month's meeting was canceled since we are meeting as an entire board on this date. But we did meet in December, reviewed financials at that time, identified some adjustments that needed to be made in anticipation of the January close. And with that, what I would like to do is to introduce Ms. Amy Trant, the Management Analyst for the Animal Service Center, who will be presenting the financials. These will be through December or the first half of FY25. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Amy. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Chair members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amy Trant. I'm the Management Analyst for the Animal Services Center of Mesilla Valley. And this morning I'll be presenting the financials for a period ending December 31st, 2024. Our current assets are at pooled and cash investments, $1,000,000 $71,788. Our receivables are $315,956, which includes the November and December payments of $157,427 from Doñana County. Usually post around the 15th of each month. Yesterday, the city coordinated with Deborah Ware from the county's manager's office, and she has processed the ACH for this on Tuesday. So these numbers for receivables will go down in the next month. We have capital assets of $277,434. So total assets, $1,665,178. Our total liabilities stand at $343, with a total fund balance of $1,393,835. So our total liabilities and fund balance stands at $1,665,178. Our statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance, budget and actual for the Fund 7440. Total revenues for the actuals is $2,664,350. That puts us at a 54% in the budget parameter. The revenues are ahead, attributed to both the city and the county providing upfront contributions. Our total expenditures at $2,127,697. So that puts us at a 43.1%. The change in net position is $536,653. Fund balance at the start of the year was $551,735. So our net position at the end of the period was $1,088,389. The budget and actual for our executive director is $89,668. That puts us at a 26.5%. The entry you see here for capital for $136,154 is attributed to the grant funds that we received from Petco Love. The shelter recently acquired an adoption trailer at $72,207. So that should post in the next month. So these numbers will actually decrease on the actuals. But you can see that the total expenditures, he's at 26.5%. That's well below the budget parameter of 50% at this time of the fiscal year. Budget and actual for our medical director. The actual is $509,147. That puts the medical director at 38.3%, also well below the budget parameter for this time of the fiscal year. Our kennel director, actual expenditures, $823,644. The percentage of budget is 46.7, continuing below the budget parameter of 50%. Administrative operations, budget and actual. Actual expenditures, $704,980. So the percentage of budget is at 46.9, which again is below the budget parameter of 50%. And total expenditures, salary 56%, benefits 20%, services 13%, supplies at 8%. We have other at 3%. This covers transportation, travel, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. Any questions?
Questions from the board? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Next report is on the executive committee. Commissioner Sanchez has left us, and I've not yet moved into that committee. I'm not sure. Councillor Corrin, thank you.
I can just give a brief update. We talked about what was going to be on the agenda today. Some plans for who all might be speaking, which you will see the upcoming items on the agenda that we sort of talked to Liz about. We also talked about how some of the community-related issues that came up in the context of things that we've been hearing from folks, and Liz, I think, has been following up on those directly. So I'm just sorry I didn't take notes in our executive committee meeting, admittedly.
It's fine. I feel like I was there.
You were.
I know.
Not to give you a hard time. But we were both there. So those are the basics. We talked about the fee topic, which is going to be coming up for a discussion item shortly. So Liz gave us a preview, and we had that conversation about what that will be. We also highlighted that there is some ambiguity related to a number of these things in our JPA versus our bylaws, and we did identify, and this continues to come up as something that we need to do in the middle to near future. In addition to the executive director search, we do need to have a bylaw update to make sure that we address that. And I think some ideas have been floated related to how we'll do that in terms of a subcommittee, but that was the other briefly covered topic. Sorry for not remembering very well.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much. And finally, facilities, ex officio member Ward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the facilities meetings, we did meet, we managed to meet November the 21st, and so due to the holidays, the other meeting was canceled. But during this time, we had, of course, the new building's 1-year warranty had expired, so at this time, the following items were reported, addressed, and completed, which was the shelter medical wing break room water heater that was not working had been completed. The shelter lock issues with the employee area, the med door center was resolved. The adoption building, the women's toilet was leaking, but that was completed and worked on. The shelter, the ADA door latch was broken, that was completed. So all those things were completed. And then these following items were reported, they were addressed, but they have not started working on yet. The shelter door with the green door pod was broken, was reported. It hasn't been started on yet. And then these following items were reported, addressed, and they're in progress. So the shelter flagpoles were unable to crank up. They're reported and they're actually in progress. And the shelter north lobby door lock mechanism in the lobby that will not lock, it's been reported and it's in progress. It's still reported. The shelter core key fobs, the card readers, are still in progress, and the technicians have gone into the facility. They reported that they need to assign an active card for each person, and then that's still in progress. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I would just point out the overlap of the Finance Committee presentation and Board Member Mary Lou's presentation, that when we heard finance, that we're part of, facilities is part of 3% of that budget in terms of maintenance and supplies, et cetera, that we need to keep the facility running. And so when you hear Mary Lou say these things have been reported and they're in progress, a part of that's because we have to, the executive director and the shelter staff have to be very careful about how much money do we have and how are we going to spend it. And so those things have to be prioritized, and then city staff comes in and assists us with that, for which we're very grateful. But it is a very tiny little piece of the budget.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 7.1, a discussion item, ASCMV adoption fees.
Hi, Liz Seeley, ASCMV Interim Director. So just to give a little bit of background information on the adoption fees, in 2021, we changed our fees, and the idea was that we were going to offer our spayed and neuter animals at a lower price to kind of hopefully promote them for adoption quicker. And since a few years that we have been doing this, we found a couple of things. The first one is the animals really speak for themselves. So adopters are going to adopt an animal that fits in their lifestyle rather than an animal that's at a lower adoption fee. That's just how it is. And second, it was created a lot of confusion around, especially in the community, because the wording kind of sounded like we were adopting out unaltered animals for a higher fee, which we weren't. Everything was spayed and neutered before it left for adoption. So in revamping our website, and we were kind of going over our fees page, it got really complicated because you have so many different categories of fees. We also do our senior discounts, our military discounts. So we decided that we would just do every dog at a flat fee, a flat rate, whether they're spayed or neutered, and same for every cat. So it kind of simplified the fees a little bit. And during the executive committee meeting, it was kind of, we were unsure on who was in charge of setting those fees, with the city ordinance saying one thing and the JPA saying another. So that's why it's up for discussion.
Thank you. Let me open it. Councilor Corrin.
And thank you for presenting on this. And I think the board has some named capacity in terms of setting fees. The city is working on a municipal ordinance update, which will relate to reclamations and what fees are associated with things like reclamations of animals. There are also state laws that have sort of very specific guidelines for what kinds of fees can be charged, how those fees are called. And I think I just want to sort of share that this is in the domain of conversations that I think we need to have on the board, but there are also a number of variables that aren't really necessarily, that we're still trying to figure out, I think, in this conversation. Definitely the municipal ordinance component, we want to make sure that when the city does our municipal ordinance, we don't do anything that's at cross purposes with the ASCMV's goals, and we don't want to do anything that's at cross purposes with the state laws related to fees for service versus adoption fees versus sort of fines for behavior, I guess I would say. And so I'm just naming the various variables that are at play that we know are issues, I think, and have to figure out collectively, both the city as we write our ordinance and in collaboration with the ASCMV, which they are part of those conversations as well. But the adoption-based fees, I think from my perspective, and I'm going to make the case to us all, that there is, while the JPA talks about our role in setting fees, I don't believe that we should take away the discretion of the ASCMV's executive director to do a lot of the things. Like, we see constant sort of promotions, and I think those make a big difference in how if folks are considering adoption, and it really just gives a bright spot to sort of be able to say, oh, these folks are sponsoring it, this is what this means, this is what's in context. So I think that the ASCMV the board has a future role in having those conversations, including how much things actually cost, which is one part of the many calculations. And I think that's sort of what caused the initial confusion in the first place, was using a cost-based model versus a public understanding model for altered versus unaltered. And so that was not necessarily something that we understood the impacts of in that context. But I guess all of this to say, I think this conversation is ongoing and not something that Liz and Clint, by extension, are proposing simplifying this and making it really much more clear to the public in terms of adoption fees. And I think that I just want to say that we're supportive of that, and also that I think these conversations are ongoing, and I think understanding all the different variables is still a work in progress for the ASCMV and for us in terms of what our role is in setting those fees and/or giving authority to the executive director to have some discretion in that context. So that's all I wanted to say, is I want to maintain that discretion and ability to do things like have promotions on the part of the ASCMV as we do that, but also think about things like how much does a spay and neuter cost? What does it cost to reclaim? What is a reclaim fee? Those conversations are still ongoing. So that's all I wanted to add to that.
Thank you so much. Wow, no one else? Thank you, Councillor Corrin, for covering that succinctly and cogently. No, I promise. I agree. I agree with what Councillor Corrin said in regard to allowing that discretion. You are the boots on the paws on the ground. You are most familiar with the population and their needs. And I have to laugh because the last dog that we adopted from ASCMV, we were like, it was a coin flip between the two dogs that we were trying to choose between, and they were both great, and we ended up choosing the one who was unaltered, just kind of figuring like, we've gotten a dog through post-op before, so we'll go ahead and take this guy because, I was working from home, so it was not a big deal. But I do regularly hold it over that dog's head, like, hey man, you know what, you were this close to not being my dog. But no, I really do appreciate that. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment on this? I mean, and of course we're very reachable by email, phone, happy to meet with folks, but I just wanted to, okay, seeing none. Well, thank you so much for speaking on that. And now we'll move into our action items. First up, 8.1, a resolution approving the 2025 holiday closure schedule for the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley. If I can get a motion to
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Was that you, Board Member Williams? Great. Motion by Board Member Williams, seconded by Board Member Campbell. And is there someone presenting on this? Or?
Sorry, this is just a resolution to adopt what the city has for the holiday closures.
Okay, great, and I'm seeing that list. Board members, if you're following along, that's on page 41, and looks pretty standard. Any comments? Okay, thanks. I can't tell. I'm sorry for every time someone moves, because I can't necessarily see everyone's lights, I'm like laser focused on. Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll call roll. Board Member Williams?
Yes.
Board Member Gates?
Yes.
Board Member Campbell?
Yes.
Board Member Peck?
Yes.
Councillor Corrin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Shaljo Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez is absent, or former Chair Sanchez is absent, and I, Chair Graham, vote yes. Motion passes. Next up, 8.2, which is resolution providing for determination of reasonable notice of meetings and meeting date of the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley Board of Directors.
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Williams, seconded by Councillor Corrin.
So, this is just to set the future board meetings for this coming up year, which we hope to do. Really, both of these resolutions we would hope to do prior to the beginning of the year. So I believe in October we would want to have these resolutions again.
Okay, great. Appreciate that preparation. Any questions or comments from the board?
Just a quick comment. The commission will be out of town April 24th. We do have our alternate positions that can join, but if we wanted to maybe consider that meeting, we can. If not, no harm, no foul, but Commissioner Sanchez and myself will not be here.
Okay. But you have you have voting proxies?
Nope. Mary Lou would be here. Mary Lou will be here.
I'm not sure what date is it on.
The April 24th.
Probably not.
Madam Chair,
Doñana County will not be here.
I'll be here.
Yes, Board Member Williams.
I would hate to lose the institutional knowledge for an entire meeting of the county delegation. I would suggest that we find an alternate meeting date that we would be able to have them attend. Would you be amenable to the second Thursday of the month, that month?
Sure.
That's my suggestion, Madam Chair.
We love that suggestion.
I think that suggestion is taken, it's generally dependent on whether or not the space is available. That's probably the biggest other variable that we aren't necessarily able to account for in this moment because of the broadcast ability of here. So I would say propose that amendment depending on space availability. That would be the caveat to that. I don't know of any reason not to do that, but.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Sholdu Hernandez, would you be willing to see whether the commission chambers might be available? Because it has the same capabilities as this chambers.
For sure, we can do that. We will find a space.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Bernice Navarro from the ASCMV. We just had one concern as far as the financials, to be able to present those, as the second Thursday of the month is the 10th, and that would be a very close. I'm not sure that would be possible to get the financials by that date. So just a concern.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would the 17th work? Because you said the 24th you're gone. Would the 17th work?
We will be here, so yes. It is the 17th is the Thursday before a holiday, so I think it's dependent if you all are going to be with us, but that works for us.
Yes, Board Member Peck.
Madam Chair, the third Thursday of the month is normally reserved for solid waste, and several of you are on that board. It gets real. My recommendation is to approve this as it's posted. The director can change and call for a special meeting after they coordinate that at any time. So you can move the date and basically cancel the April 24th meeting due to lack of an agenda. But it's going to take a little bit of time because you have to balance rooms and other schedules and everything else to change these meetings around in time. And I respect what you say about not having, the county not being here, but I think the director needs a little bit of time to check on availability, and they can call a special meeting at any time and just schedule this, schedule it around.
I've always known Patrick Peck to be the voice of reason in the room, so I'm happy to go along with that.
All right. Perfect. Agreed. Any other?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so, again, just for the reminder and the financials, and thank you, Bernice, we can make a third Thursday work as we did today, but probably no earlier than that to receive the financial report.
Okay, thank you for the input. So it sounds like we will stick with what we have pending various logistics.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right, then I'll do roll call. Board Member Williams?
Yes.
Board Member Gates?
Yes.
Board Member Campbell?
Yes.
Board Member Peck?
Yes.
Councillor Corrin?
Yes. Yes.
Vice Chair Shaljo Hernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez is absent, and I, Chair Graham, vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to 8.4, discussion and preliminary plans for selection process and timeline for hiring the next ASCMV Executive Director. Hello.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board. I'm Joe Richards, the HR Director for the city. Sorry, I'm over here at the end.
No, fantastic. I always call that the voice of God when I'm like, what, who? Thank you.
I'm in trouble then. Thank you for having us here today. We appreciate the time and our efforts and helping you with this next election and outlining some different options for you that we can certainly discuss. Today I have with me our Assistant Director of Human Resources, Jose Vargas. He's going to present to you some information that we can review and see how you want to go moving forward.
Thank you so much. Mr. Vargas.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Like we said, Jose Vargas from HR. So today I'm here to present to you a couple of options that we have to review both the job description for the director and also a couple of options on how we can move on with the recruitment for the next director of the Animal Services Center. Right. So we'll begin with the job description review. Hopefully you guys like my little animations here. If you guys choose to go ahead and move forth with reviewing the job description, there's a couple of ways we can handle that or go about that. The first one is if the board chooses to review as a collective during an open meeting to provide any revisions for that job description, we can definitely do so. Thank you, sorry. And then also the board has the option to delegate this task to a subcommittee that is chosen by the board. So whichever option you guys choose to do so if you want to review that job description.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I strongly suggest that we appoint a subcommittee for this purpose. This board doesn't meet frequently enough for, this need is kind of urgent. And I think a subcommittee could meet more frequently and could move us through the process and keep the board apprised. Also, I was on the board for the last 2 times we did this, and so I would be happy and eager to serve on that subcommittee.
Thank you for that input. I suppose we can go slide by slide, which I know we'll start and stop you. Other thoughts from the board? Yes, Councilor Corrin.
I was just going to say, I think I agree with Board Member Williams' input, but I do think there might be other options as the show goes on. I think not these. I understand that this might be 2 options, but I think there might be other things to also consider as part of the possibilities, especially related to the whole process overall. So, if it's okay,
yeah,
please.
I can finish the presentation if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please continue.
Okay, awesome. All right. So once the job description has been finalized, we can begin recruitment for the position itself. And there are a couple of options there to fill that vacancy. So the first one would be the board can leverage the City of Las Cruces HR department to help create a selection process that will be facilitated by HR staff and either the board or a subcommittee if they choose to do that. That's up to you guys again, how you decide to go about that route. The board also has the option to go through a professional search firm to handle all aspects of that recruitment. And again, that is up to the decision of the board. And there's a couple of slides later, I'll give you guys a few stipulations of that as well, if you choose to go that decision. I do want to point out that the decision to use a board or a subcommittee in a search firm or leverage the City of Las Cruces HR department should be discussed in an open meeting. Okay. So what will working with the City of Las Cruces HR include? So HR staff will post the position via our standard advertising venues, which will include governmentjobs.com. These are going to be our standard ones. City of Las Cruces email distribution list, Fort Bliss, also New Mexico Workforce, New Mexico Municipal League, and then also with NMSU through Handshake and Pink Jobs. If the board would like to advertise via any other specific types of platforms, we can definitely help with that as well. The only thing to mention there is that that cost will need to be paid by the animal services if we choose to go through any specific platforms that do have a charge. NeoGov, which is our recruitment platform that we use to advertise on governmentjobs.com, they also can provide a list of advertising venues like Indeed, LinkedIn, if that will be helpful for you all. But again, the terms of payment will follow the same thing where it will be incurred by the Animal Services Center. And then HR staff will partner with the board or committee to create and facilitate a structured selection process that's going to outline the steps of the recruitment. And these documents will be mutually agreed upon by both HR staff and the board or subcommittee, however you choose to do that. And HR staff will also work with the city clerk's office to follow all compliance and regulations. All right, so steps of the recruitment with the city of Las Cruces. So the first thing is we enter a requisition in our platform so that we can post that position and advertise it on our standard advertising platforms. Once the posting closes, and this established selection process begins, and that again is those documents that will be mutually agreed upon. There will be a review of applications for qualifications, and then alignment on applicants between HR and the board and or committee. Interviews will be scheduled and completed, and the selection of the most qualified candidate will then follow. And this is just a brief overview of what those steps will look like. Okay. If you all choose to engage using an outside vendor to fill that vacancy, meaning a professional search firm, the board will need to partner with finance department to follow their procurement process to acquire the search firm. Depending on the amount, there's a specific amount of quotes that need to be obtained. As you can see here, anything below $25,000 requires 1 quote. Anything above that requires 2 quotes. The other thing to mention is there may be a different timeline for that process as well, depending on the search firm that you use, and then going through that vendor process. And then the vendor will need to work with the city clerk's office to follow all compliance and regulations as well. Okay, and with that, I'll open it up for any type of discussion.
Board members? Yes, Councilor Corrin.
Thank you. So it sounds like a search firm would not be a part of modifying the job description.
Correct.
Okay, so that's something that we have to figure out on our own without help from a search firm.
Again, if it comes from the board doing that and reviewing that, I don't know necessarily. I can defer that to if you necessarily have to let us know that you're working with the search firm. We just need to have that before we post the position. That has to be finalized before then.
Okay. I guess what I would say is, for me, the most important parts of this are, one, that we're able to do it in a pretty expeditious fashion, but not so expeditious that we don't have ample participation. But I also think we might have a conversation about where we see community input being a part of this, and that is on the front end with the job description versus on the second end. And that's a specific question that I would ask to you is, on if there is a subcommittee or the full committee, are there opportunities for both community, potentially forums, and or community members to serve on the selection committee? Those would be 2 questions that I think I would be curious, and I would just like to speak that I think that we should have both. I would say we should have both of those things. And then the last part that I would say is I think this is a really specific and pretty narrow, even though the qualifications from the past job description aren't the required sort of education and experience are leave it open to a lot of folks. I think it also leaves it open to a lot of folks who are not really qualified or able to take on this pretty big job. And so I feel like there is a little bit of a special call that I would ask that we consider having a facilitated recruitment process with someone who's typically involved in I would say this kind of an adjacent kind of role filling, because I don't think I don't know that the types of expertise or things that we're going to ask the person are necessarily going to be easily found through traditional recruitment methods. It seems like something we need a headhunter for, frankly, from my perspective. But I don't know if others agree or have that perspective. So those would just be my questions, where we can incorporate community members outside of the board and their inputs. And then secondarily, I just think I would like us to have an abundance of really great candidates to choose from. And so that's why I would say I think it might be, I just think about some of the city positions that I thought were very appealing from a salary perspective and from a sort of benefits of working at the city perspective, that had, you know, 0 qualified applicants for eight months in some cases. And so that would be a situation that I don't want us to end up in, just like our veterinarian position. So I would put that in the hopper as considerations too.
Yeah, and in terms of public participation, Christine, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you guys have the autonomy to design that as you're creating that selection process, whether it be through a subcommittee, through the board, or even through a search firm, of when you want to incorporate that and how you want to incorporate that. And in terms of members of the public being on either an interview panel or anything like that, again, that's up to you, the discretion of how you guys want to approach that as well.
Board Member Gates.
Yeah, I think I mean, I agree with that. I think we definitely need to have something a little more specialized, whether that's a headhunter, like you mentioned, or specifically some sort of whatever they're called that my brain is losing. But I also think that it's important to listen to the staff of the center as well in some way in this process, because we need to make sure that, you know, whoever is coming in kind of fits, you know, their needs and the culture that's there already. So I just wanted to point that out, that, you know, along with community members, I think having some sort of staff feedback or input in the process in some way is really important to make sure that their voices are heard and dreams of what a director might look like for them. I think that was it for me. Go.
Yeah, Joe?
I just wanted to add that in the past, when we have used search firms, some of these things that you all are mentioning, as an example, involving others and getting their input, those things they've done with us, including reviewing the job description. So those are some things that I think if you decide to go that route, they may be incorporating some of your concerns already, if that helps.
It does. And let me just ask a quick question, then I'll move to you, Board Member Campbell, and then on to Joe, understanding that, so making sure that I understand, if we went with an external firm and did modify the job description, that would still need to come back to HR for approval?
We would be a part of the process.
Okay.
And, you know, giving you feedback and those types of things. So not necessarily our approval, but again, just making sure we're consistent with how we've formatted and done other similar job descriptions.
Understood. And that's something that we could, again, recognizing that we're juggling moving quickly with moving comprehensively, would we be able to move that along fairly rapidly through HR?
I'm going to defer a little bit to Barbara on some of these items because she's been heavily involved in some of the other ones.
Thank
and
you.
I'm not sure about the timelines that we've experienced before. Do you recall?
Madam Chair, so I think that it depends on what the process is, how the process is going to be defined, what elements are going to be incorporated. Are we going to look at, for example, with outside assistance for either, a search firm doing an RFP or piggybacking on a contract that's already in existence with another entity that fits our requirements for doing so. So there are quite a few variables associated with that.
Okay, good. But then I think that should be in mind for everyone when we're imagining the length of process. Board Member Campbell?
I was going to say that too, with the search firms I have worked with also seek input from the current staff and from the community if needed. There's really kind of 5 elements that I see to this. So one is the development of the job description, and that's something that we will do but could do with a search firm. The second is, where do we post it? A search firm can also help with that, but we probably have a good feel for that. But then there's a review of the initial applications and the initial interviews, which can be very time consuming, and that is something that a search firm will take off your hands. But then the final interview would be our responsibility once the final candidates are identified and referred to us.
Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez?
I think I was just gonna touch on the timeline aspect as well. And is there a way, since we already have a contract with Slavin, Barbara, this is probably for you, with South Central Solid Waste Authority, since we're doing an executive level search there, is there a way that we can expedite getting a contract done using that contract so as to not have to go through the rigmarole, if you know what I mean? Because I know that was a couple month process just to get them on board. Can you help us with that?
So, of course, thank you, Madam Chair and board members. I would defer to our purchasing manager on this. The nature of the scope of work would have to be, there are requirements for piggybacking, if you will, on another contract, and it would entail, looking at what was the scope of work to be performed, the time frame for that contract that's in place, et cetera. But I see Alicia Hernandez, our purchasing manager, coming to the podium, so I'll defer to her.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. I will say when we did when we hired the search firm for South Central Solid Waste, we were unable to find a contract to piggyback. So what they did was obtain 2 quotes because it exceeded the $25,000 limit, and that was the cheaper of the 2.
So with that being, since we did that now and we have that contract in place, is Animal Services able to work off of that contract?
They are not.
So
because we did not do proper competition.
Okay, so what would our boards, if we decide to do an executive search firm to basically be that headhunter to help us procure the next executive director, what does that time frame look like?
It's just as quick as someone from the board obtaining quotes or whoever you delegate to do that. We have a couple of options for you of search firms that we've used in the past. Of course, if you guys have or are aware of others that we may not be, you can contact them as well. We have not seen it exceed 50,000 in the search firms we've hired probably in the last 3 or 4 years. So really, it's just about obtaining 2 quotes from someone.
Okay, and then what is the internal timeline as soon as we get quotes to you?
We can turn it over fairly quickly as long as the vendor works with us and sets up a proper vendor profile if they don't already exist in our system. If they do, it's just a matter of Animal Services putting in the requisition, we obtain insurance, and we can get a purchase order out the door.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'm going to swim against the tide. I don't think we should hire a search firm. I've been through this rodeo twice. The City of Las Cruces Human Resources Department does a fantastic job of getting the word out across the country. They worked in the past 2 times we did this, they worked closely with the facility staff to determine where we could post the jobs besides NeoGov, so that we are getting people within the animal services community. We're getting this posting in front of them. And the way we've done it in the past was we set a posting date, we set a closing date. Then City HR did a great job of going through the applications and determining which met the minimum requirements, and then forwarding to the selection committee the packets that did meet the requirements. The committee then narrows that down and comes before the full board, usually in closed session, although those rules may have changed a bit, to say, here's who we recommend as the finalists to bring in for interviews. And then those people come in. We certainly bring them in front of the public so that the public can ask questions, the staff can ask questions. If we do a search firm, we take the risk of hiring somebody who doesn't know our community. As Board Member Gates mentioned earlier in regards to our numbers, we are atypical, and we know our community better than anybody else. We may find a search firm, and those people may or may not be animal people, and we are animal people. This is our passion. This is why we're here gathered in the same room. The budget impact, $25,000 is a significant amount of money out of this budget that I don't see any need to spend. Personally, we didn't do it in the past, and we got two good executive directors who lasted a good long time each time. And then again, as was just asked, how long is this going to take? Well, it doesn't take any time if we don't go that route. We can proceed if we do it as a board in conjunction with City of Las Cruces Human Resources. I've done it. I've worked with them twice. They do a great job, and that's my recommendation, is that we go that route.
Thank you. Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez?
I agree with Board Member Williams. I believe that we should try it internally, see what we can produce without using an executive firm, and give it a shot and go from there.
Board Member Peck?
So I have mixed emotions on this, having gone through this recently. And Slavin, when we hired him at South Central, did come in at $24.99.99. It was amazing that, you know, they knew the number. I've done some research on this, and there are firms that, you know, specialize in going to find nationally, you know, and specialize in this. And so I think, but then again, you're going to be looking at a minimum of 30 to 45 days to bring in another firm to get them up and going. And so I'm sitting here considering the staff and everything else. Jess is correct. Board Member Williams is correct. We need to do this through a subcommittee, form that committee. Let the board, you know, give that subcommittee the discretion to either, you know, hire outside or not. I'm kind of tending, because of the time frame, to do this internally and let Joe and her staff run at it. If we're unhappy with the results, we're unhappy with the results, and we go hire an external firm. But if we're going to try to get this filled in the next 90 days to 120 days, I think that's the best option at this point in time.
Thank you. Do you want to weigh back in on the? I'll offer. I now feel like I'm at like Model UN or something, so I'm going to let rebuttal.
No, I don't necessarily have a rebuttal. I just would argue. Again, I think of two positions that had significant requests from the community for them to be filled, so significant import. I think this is of a more significant import in terms of getting someone on board in a timely fashion and getting someone who is really qualified for the job. And this is subject to a lot of community sort of feelings, as Board Member Williams mentioned. Those two positions that, and I say, I just don't, the reason I lean toward suggesting an external firm is I think about our active transportation coordinator, which I think in the city of Las Cruces took quite some time to eventually fill that position or find someone who is suitable. And it's a very niche sort of area. And then I think about our historic preservation specialist position. also something that the community is asking for follow-up on, and I don't think that and I don't know, but I know that process took way longer than the community was hoping to fill those 2 specialized positions. And I don't think those were necessarily things that we searched beyond our area. So, and I think, while I do think local knowledge is really important, and I think that a process needs to value that, and that actually I think speaks to the idea that we should revise the job description to sort of, I think about things like when you see a prospectus from a search committee, it gives a profile of the community and talks about the experiences that folks are having. And I don't think that's necessarily part of what we have the capacity to do, and I think it would be a powerful part of a search, would be characterizing the community and giving folks a clear picture of what they're stepping into. So I still lean toward us hiring someone, because I think it would help to have a third party to say, these are some of the things that are part of a search, and ways that we can maximize the number of applicants. But I also understand the budget-related impacts and the timing-related impacts. Although I don't think that an internal process will necessarily yield the numbers of applicants that we imagine who are qualified and able to do the job in a short amount of time. So I would argue an internal process isn't inherently shorter than hiring a search firm, based on the experiences that I've had within niche sort of recruitment for very specialized and difficult jobs.
Board Member Gates?
I just want to say I agree. I think this is a very specialized field. I think it's a very serious position. I think we need to make sure that we're targeting the right people, regardless of where they're at. I think that, having a lot of, I think it opens up more opportunities for involvement in the process of, like I said, the community as well as the staff input. And gives a little less of that burden on the board, admittedly, because then it kind of has professionals searching for a professional and then doing something that they already have experience doing, again, filling a very niche field, very particular position that we really want to see a strong leader in. And I think that finding, a search firm that has experience, obviously, in animal welfare would be ideal, but even just having a search firm that has experience in, finding an executive for nonprofits, I think that's really important.
Yes, Commissioner?
I just have a question really quick for either yourself or the Director of HR. So if we did decide to go with the City of Las Cruces' HR department to go forth with this recruitment process, do you guys have tools? Do you all have contracts available that you all can do to kind of get this out into other fields besides just the ones that were listed on that slide? Is there a way that you can kind of solicit going through like the Municipal League and NM counties and all these other organizations that you might have access to? Is that something that you all can do? Is there someone that you work with to get this out to those networks already?
Madam Chair, Board, yes, we actually, all of our positions get posted on a national platform. So every job that we post goes out. If there are specific professional related organizations that departments or organizations want to post with, we can certainly do that as well. And we have done that. I'd like to also speak to the committee and involving the public. We've had executive level positions that have not been posted through firms, that we have structured and organized those public input committees. So to try and address some of your concerns, I think there's a multitude of things that our HR department has done that may not necessarily be known to you all specifically, but we do have those capabilities, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Let's, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to point out that when we hired Dr. Beth, she came to us from Ohio. When we hired Clint, he came to us from Utah. The city's HR department does have a national reach. They're fully capable of posting this in ways that are going to get qualified applicants from across the country. And in fact, when we hired Clint, there were 3 people that we were looking at, and all of them were supremely well qualified. I have absolute faith in City of Las Cruces HR department, and I have faith in this board to be able to bring to the community finalists and finally a recommendation for hire, and then the city follows through on that to make sure we get the very best person from among that pool of applicants. And we will get a good pool of applicants. I can tell you that from experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Christine, I'm putting you on notice. I'm gonna have a question for you in a moment. Not to move away from, it seems to me we have two things that we need to make a decision on, and that is internal HR versus external and subcommittee versus whole board. Can we talk a little more about the subcommittee, or is there general agreement that subcommittee is the way to go?
Madam Chair, my recommendation for the subcommittee is based on a couple of things. One thing is there won't be a quorum of the board, so we're not running up against open meetings issues. We can meet frequently, and we can meet frequently with HR at HR's discretion to say, here's where we are, and we need some direction from you. And then this board, since we only meet quarterly, what the subcommittee is going to have to do is come back in April and say, here's where we are. And the entire board, at that point, we may be able to make recommendations. I don't know. I can't predict that. But at some point, the entire board's going to have, or as Patrick said earlier, Board Member Peck, we can call a special meeting if we need to, depending on the timeline. The subcommittee gives, if the board invests in the subcommittee and says, we believe that these 3 people can do the job working in hand with City of Las Cruces HR department, I think we expedite this and we do it in a way that is not impactful to an already tight budget at the ASCMV.
Thoughts on not having a subcommittee? Okay, good. Well, that seems.
I just wanted to say that I don't know if this is twisting it too much, but I think having a subcommittee is necessary. However, I don't know that I necessarily agree with the idea that the subcommittee makes the decision about whether or not to use HR or use the search firm. I think that should be a decision.
I agree. Thank you. Councilor Corman, are you going to jump in?
I was just going to say, I think we can move today. Can we move action items? And I think it's possible we should have public comment also in this, but I think we could consider 2 motions, and I'm not proposing them. I'm checking in with Christine that this would be an appropriate action. One is to appoint a subcommittee, and probably talk a little bit about what we expect the membership of that is, so that it's sort of representative of the larger board, and then 2, general direction on something like if it should go internally using our HR process versus a search firm. Those would be 2 fine motions to make. We would just have to come up with the motions right now.
Correct. That's actually what I was going to recommend to you guys, was that you make a motion and vote on the subcommittee, and then also a motion and vote on internal versus external.
So I will craft a motion on the fly. I know Christine does not love that, but this one is the easier of the 2. I move that the board today, and then we can have public comment on this after, right? I think, after we have a motion in a second? Okay. So I don't want it to be like I'm trying to move away from having that. But I move that we create a subcommittee of the ASCMV board that will work to do the administrative work related to this search, to include job description, search process, and timeline, roughly, that is representative of the board in that it has representatives both from the community and elected officials and from the county and the city. So that would be my motion, which is lengthy, but I think that you all get the gist, perhaps, I hope.
Second.
Okay, let me open it up to public comment then. Yes, please come forward. Absolutely not. I'm going to, sorry, I don't know how to work the clock, so I'm going to time on my phone, and I will not start until you've arrived. And I also want to note that I don't know what the timer on I don't know what the alarm is going to sound like, so I apologize if it's horrible.
Brief.
So
Yeah.
3 minutes, and please, and
Jerry
please state your
Wheelis,
name.
good
Thank
morning.
you.
I just want to say, from my perspective as an animal advocate in this community, I wholeheartedly agree with Becky Coran, and there definitely needs to be public input. You're going to get crazy amount of pressure if you don't do that. And you know, we can, however you want to decide who those people are. If you need advice from other advocates or you have ideas, that'd be fine too. I also think that you should go external because it is, as everyone says, such a niche position. And with all due respect to Mr. Williams, I've heard, I wasn't here, but I have heard not great things about Dr. Beth. And Clint worked out well. But I think that you do need a search firm that specializes in animal welfare. And that's it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if, before you get away, could you identify yourself for the record, so for the minutes?
She did.
Okay, I missed that part. Thank you.
And I wasn't sure if you were you waving because you would also like to speak? Or were you just waving because Jerry wanted to speak? No? Okay. And we will also, for other sub-motion, we'll, in terms of discussing the internal versus external, we'll allow public comment as well. So, any other comments on subcommittee?
Would we need to say who the members are now if we pass this motion, just for clarity's sake?
Councilor Cran, you can do a separate motion to
appoint people?
To appoint people, yeah.
Okay, volunteer people?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we'll do a separate then. Thank you.
Okay, great. So on the motion to form a subcommittee consisting of board member representation, including at least one from county, one from city, and then also having community members represented as well, and ASCMV staff. Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Board Member Gates.
Yes.
Board Member Campbell.
Yes.
Board Member Peck.
Yes.
Councilor Corrin. Yes. Commissioner Sheljo Hernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez is absent, and Chair Graham vote yes. So that motion passes. So do we want to now make a motion, or do we want to discuss who is going to be on, who will represent?
Oh, I can just pick. No, I think we maybe should have a discussion. Not me.
So, well, Mr. Williams, I know you've indicated that you do not want to serve, I'm kidding, on the subcommittee, but I'm going to presume that you're throwing your hat in for subcommittee. Okay, then others?
And the grand total would be 4, which is the not approaching the quorum of the board, correct?
Councilor Cran, you have 8 members, so I would do 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
3. no, I volunteer myself to not be on this committee. Thank you. Just, yeah.
Oh, true. Understood. Oh, okay, great. So Mr. Williams is representing city on this. Okay, great. Misunderstood.
Why are you looking at me?
Because I can't look at Manny.
Oh! Is this where we volunteer someone?
Madam Chair.
I volunteer Manny. No, just kidding. Please, Board Member Bencomo.
Gates? Oh, I'm sorry, who?
Bencomo.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara.
Madam Chair, just a point of clarification. I'm not understanding how the city is represented.
Because Board Member Williams was one of the, okay, now no longer community, but community representatives appointed by City Council to serve on the board. So I shouldn't have said elected, I guess I should have said city representation, county representation.
But I suspect you're also alluding to the idea that someone from city HR or associated things would be there, or no, that's not?
I guess my question is, the board is currently made up of representatives from the city, from the county, and those representing the community.
So
I was
not
confused
necessarily
then by
okay.
the designation, so that was my question.
Okay, I understand. So then we do need to have a city elected and a county elected as such. So you're making a face. I can volunteer to this, but it sounds extraordinarily time consuming, and so I
know that's why I'm making the same face. No, and for better or worse, we both have other jobs, and that can make scheduling really difficult, and that's why we're in a stare down now. Sorry, just to be transparent.
I mean, I don't know, I don't mind throwing my hat in there as well. I know that doesn't then have an elected city official in that subcommittee, but I just wanted to put that out there.
So can we push to 4 people and still be safe? Because wouldn't quorum be 6? 5? Okay, so we could do 4. What I would recommend is that we do an elected from the county, an elected from the city, and then 2 community members.
Okay, then Board Member Gates, you're willing to be the second committee member. Specifying that this is not discounting people not sitting on the board in the community as participating on the subcommittee, just trying to be clear with that.
So that way you have 2 electeds and 2 city. Or 2 electeds and 2 community. They're both C words. I mean, we're hitting somewhere near the head of the nail. But that's what I would recommend.
Sure, I'll serve on the subcommittee.
I will also serve on the subcommittee.
Okay, thank you.
With the understanding that this is my 3rd executive search in less than 12 months.
I'm so sorry.
Madam Chair.
So I would move that the subcommittee will consist of board members Williams, Gates, Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez, and myself.
Madam
I'm sorry,
Chair.
I think I need a motion and a second on that.
So moved.
Thank you. A second, please.
Second, again.
Board Member Williams?
Is there any public input?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I got a thumbs up for the record. Board Member Williams?
Yes.
Board Member Gates?
Yes.
Board Member Campbell?
Yes.
Board Member Peck?
Yes.
Councillor Corrin?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez?
Yes, I'm sorry too.
Commissioner Sanchez is absent, and I, Chair Graham, vote yes. So in terms of motion, I guess I have to phrase it like a question because we have to be able to vote yes or no on whether we're doing external or internal. So I suppose the motion could be phrased, either way? Or Christine, would you recommend doing 2 motions, one for internal, one for external, and then we have like a vote count?
Yeah, I would start with external, internal. If you get all the votes for that one, then that's the way you're going to go. But if you don't, then I would take a vote for the second one, if that makes sense.
No,
Do a vote for going internal. If you get a majority vote.
Oh, I
then-
see.
Yeah.
Okay, so it can be either one.
Correct.
Yes, Councillor Corrin?
Again, because for lack of a motion, I move that we move to hire a search firm to conduct the community input, job description development, and outreach for the ASCMV director position.
Can I get a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Commissioner Shelter Hernandez?
So with that being said, and with the motion on the table being to hire an executive search firm, if this motion passes, are we then giving the subcommittee the authority to hire and choose said search firm?
I would presume yes.
Okay.
And is that said subcommittee in charge of developing the job description?
I have all the answers today. I would presume so, yes.
And to set up the community outreach portion of this search?
Madam Chair?
Sorry, one moment. I think that when we get into the community outreach, if we did just, it seems that the firm would be setting that up.
Correct. So the subcommittee would then charge the firm to do this.
I thought that's the point. Yeah, I guess that would be the point of the firm. I'm just making sure I'm not misunderstanding.
Yeah, no, I'm just
Okay.
trying to understand exactly what we need to include in, like, probably an amended motion to do this, to kind of outline what exactly this firm is going to be doing for us, or if we're just going to leave it up to the subcommittee. Because the thing is that we're not back here until next quarter. So if we then, the 4 members of the subcommittee meet, you, myself, and our 2 community members are meeting, and we start putting all this into place, I mean, there's a good chance that we will then hire the search firm. We will start instructing them. Hopefully we'll have a completed job description in those next 4 months, which means that we're going to be presenting at the next meeting probably a pretty complete package with a possible posting already being made and recruiting already starting. I just want to make sure that we're going to get the buy-in of this entire board so that we're not going to be having a lengthy conversation about what we did, the decisions that we made, the direction that we're going, and all that kind of stuff. I want to make sure that this board is completely sure that we understand exactly what the subcommittee is going to be doing. I just don't want to be in a position in 4 months where we're definitely going over the job description again because there's questions, or we're going over what these community outreach meetings look like. It's nothing against the board. It's just I want to make sure that I know,
noted.
because you 2 have another job. I have another job and 3 kids too. So
I know.
I just want to make sure we're not going to be wasting our time meeting and getting this ball rolling. So I just want to know exactly what we're expecting this external search firm to do, 1, and what powers. I mean, in the motion, we did give that subcommittee power to, there was 3 things listed, and please don't ask me to repeat them because I'm not even sure I remember. So I just want to make sure that we're understanding exactly what we're doing.
Okay, good. Yes, Board Member
Thank you,
Campbell.
Madam Chair. It's my understanding that we are entrusting this subcommittee with all of that, and whether there's a search firm or not, that we are not to second guess this subcommittee. The whole board is to end up doing the final interviews, but not second guess the subcommittee on their interim steps. That's my understanding.
That's my understanding as well. Any public comment? For the record, that was another agreement. And so on the, just making sure that I'm phrasing it correctly, on the motion to hire an external search committee, external firm, Board Member Williams,
No.
Board Member Gates,
Yes.
Board Member Campbell,
Yes.
Board Member Peck,
Yes.
Counselor Corrin,
Yes.
Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez is absent, and I, Chair Graham, vote yes. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Board Member Peck.
could I talk, Alicia, could I ask you something?
I'm sorry. Oh, can you speak a little more into the mic?
Sorry. Alicia, does the board have the power to contract or spend the money, or does that go to the interim director?
Madam Chair, board members, it would go to employees of the Animal Services Center.
So understand that the hiring of the firm, everything else would have to go through the interim director. So, Liz, I hope you're okay. You doing all right? It's like breathing through a fire hose, but you're gonna have to manage this search to a degree, at least getting the requisitions and all that stuff gone through. And Lisa, does she have the same signatory authority as I used to?
They do not.
Okay, but does she have over 25,000?
They've traditionally sent everything to our purchasing program, and we sign everything for them.
Right. But I mean, but
Including
she can.
anything under 25,000.
Yeah, okay, but she can. Yeah, okay. That's what I was checking on. Is that we don't have to come back to the board to hire the firm. Okay, thank you.
Pardon? I think
Yes.
anything under 25 has always come to this board. I'm pretty sure under 25 has come to this board as well.
Okay, well, we can clarify this. We will clearly need to clarify this at some point, because
Even
everyone's just
Barbara
making the
looks a
same
little
face.
No, we're good.
I mean, the Animal Service Center has followed our procurement code with respect to the thresholds.
Okay, so we're good. So basically, this subcommittee will ask our interim director to submit on our behalf a request for an outside search firm, and you two will then be working together. Is that correct?
Madam Chair and board members, I would just like to clarify, are you directing the interim director to get quotes and to submit those for selection of a search firm? That would not, you're saying that is not at the direction of the subcommittee? I'm unclear as to
So
the
that's what I'm asking,
responsibilities.
is that subcommittee authorized to instruct the interim executive director to do that work and to work with purchasing to get that done? That's probably more of a question to the board, I guess.
I guess as far as the quotes were concerned, I figured that was a subcommittee. And if it's like more of the like submitting of the quotes once they've been obtained, then I would think that that would go to interim director.
Okay.
And Board Member Campbell, did you have a comment? I thought you had your line up. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to general public input. Are there any members of the public who would like to come forward to speak? Seeing none. Chair and board comments. I will mention that at the adjournment of this meeting, we will be moving into a closed session. The closed session meeting notice is printed on the agenda as required. In the future, we will publish those separately, and I'll be providing a closed session statement at the next board meeting. Other board members, comments? Yes, please, Ms. Ward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, just going back to clarification on some of the stats in regards to the population for the city and the county and the number of animals in the city and the county. I was just kind of looking at it real quick. So according to the census in 2023, and looking at the number of households, the county's got about 93,950 households, and the city's got about 46,661 households. And looking at the NACA chart and figuring those numbers out, so the county's got about 225,480 pets. In Doñana County, city's got about 111,986 pets per household, for the city. So if you combine those, you're looking about 337,466 pets in the whole Doñana counties and the incorporated areas as well. Just wanted to give that information out. That's if those numbers are still correct as from the 2023 census.
Thank you so much. Other board members? Comments? Yes, Councilor Corrin.
No, I was just going to say, no, I don't have comments. Well, actually, yes. Sorry, see, you were correct. You're 100% correct in your assessment of my desire. I do think that the city's ongoing update of their animal ordinance is still happening, and I think those conversations are still happening. I do anticipate, and I think it's expected that that will be coming up for a vote probably by the end of March. So I don't know. I know that some of those conversations are still ongoing, but just as a heads up, it is still on the near horizon, nearer than the next ASCMV board meeting. So for folks who are listening, who are invested in those animal ordinance updates, that is also happening still, and conversations with both the ASCMV community members and other ACOs are all part of that conversation. So,
Thank you. Appreciate that reminder.
One more.
I'm sorry. You would need to approach the podium if you had a. Okay. Board Member Gates?
I don't know how it happened, so if the city folks want to elaborate, I haven't looked at city council meetings, but I saw that SNAP is now zero cost to Las Cruces residents. I think that was a city council doing and it didn't happen by October, so I don't think it's been told to folks. So I just wanted to comment.
Yep, it was among the budget priorities from last year, so the city is trying to match the counties. The county has historically given to SNAP for low-cost spay and neuters, but this is the first year that the city has included that as one of their things.
So thank you, city.
Sure.
Any other comments? Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved, Shelter Hernandez.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Third.
Second by Board Member Campbell, and we are adjourned at 11:37 a.m. Thank you so much.